Hi, my name is Bianca Noir, and you guys, everything's all corrupted and screwed up. But what I will tell you is I can't seem to keep this apartment a comfortable temperature. I would typically wear less clothing right now for this because it is pretty hot outside. But for the life of me, I cannot figure out how to keep a good temperature in this apartment right now. Between having to adjust the temperature from morning to night, with it being like 70 degrees outside right now, something is definitely wrong with my thermostat, and the apartment isn't sealed properly. And they will say I'm a liar. They will say I don't know what I'm talking about, that I'm not a contractor, that I don't know anything about building, that I don't know anything about apartments and housing, and I don't know anything about being a business owner with an apartment complex. But I'll be perfectly honest with you. I've been in an apartment complex the last time I was in an apartment complex when shady stuff was going on around me. There came mice, and good thing I'm on the top floor, because my apartment before had mice because I was in the bottom floor of a garden apartment complex. Okay, I never had mice in my entire life. And it was horrifying. I love mice, and in general though, because they're an animal, but to have them in your apartment, to wake up with a mouse jump on the bed, and you don't know where it came from, what diseases it's carrying and things like this. People have varying opinions about mice. Some people just think that they should die. And I care about mice. I do. And some people call them pests and things. I got a cruelty-free trap, and I started trapping some of these mice. But eventually I also noticed that in this apartment, it was getting so humid that there was water being trapped on the inside of the apartment. And there was water starting to form like droplets on the walls. And that's really bad. And what it is that you can get things like pneumonia from the mold and stuff, and the spores, and you can get really sick from that. So they had discovered that I needed a dehumidifier in that apartment, but they hated me. I think they were just absolutely trying to kill me at that last apartment complex as well. So I got my own dehumidifier, and I haven't been talking about this since I had been facing eviction. I have not been engaging the apartment maintenance, the apartment management here at all, because the last time I tried, they hurt me really bad and were coming by after hours, trying to get in my apartment. They were trying to tell me I have to keep my apartment door open. That's total bullshit. Everyone around was insane. They were insane criminals at that apartment complex. And I was federally subsidized. And literally, there was this crazy, crazy broad right in front who blew up her apartment and caught on fire. And she died on the inside. And that was my first death in an apartment complex. Then the next woman who moved in was clearly a very elderly prostitute who was having men come in round the clock, strange men hanging around her apartment. And then she would come to my door, knock on the door, and she was saying all kinds of weird things to the door. And I'm like, I don't know her at all. And then she was lighting things on fire. I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? And then crazy people walking around and stuff. I could tell it was crazy. People hanging out and stuff. It was just too weird, too fucking weird for me. I grew up in a neighborhood, in a house, but it wasn't a happy home. Now I live in apartment complexes where I have to pay high rent, in my opinion, and they say that this is the lowest rent you'll find, and these are the best apartment complexes. And you guys, everything's all corrupted and screwed up. But what I will tell you is I can't seem to keep this apartment a comfortable temperature. And I have my own dehumidifier to make sure because it is not sealed properly, that is not getting overly humid in here, because you will find that it will feel super hot sometimes in your apartment when it's raining. And that is because it's not sealed properly and you need a dehumidifier. And I get buckets and buckets of water from my dehumidifier here. And I mean, I can prove that. And you shouldn't need a dehumidifier in your apartment. Okay, moving on. So that being said, which has nothing to do with my sex life, but it kind of does, because this is the kind of lifestyle I have. I think whatever they want anyway. But I really want to make it clear that the kind of relationship that I want is a queer relationship with another queer person. And that can be a lot of different types of things, but basically the person has to be queer. They can't be identifying as straight. And I'm going to make that very, very clear. Anyone who identifies with being straight, I'm not going to be able to have a relationship with them, because I'm not straight. I am queer. And it doesn't matter if they think that I'm straight or look straight or I'm female enough for them. I am not interested in that relationship. And henceforth, one of the reasons why I look to be lonely or alone, because I actually am very independent and like to live alone for the most part. So secondly, I'm not going to move in with anyone willingly, for the most part. I like to live alone and then have a relationship where we live in two separate spaces. Or if we really get serious, maybe after a couple of years, we invest in a property together and we have our own special, buildings and things like that on the property. I mean, it could go that far. If you really want a property together, then we would have our own separate buildings on the property. I mean, that's pretty extravagant, though. I mean, I'll be perfectly honest with you. Not a lot of people believe that I could have a property. Not a lot of people think that, but I could. Someday I could buy a property. Okay. I really make it a priority. So moving in together is not really an option, but I get forced to move in with people sometimes because generally people think that that's a long-term or we're serious relationship. So they push us together and force us to move in together or force us to move. Okay, so that's one of the reasons why I try to hold down my own fort and try to hold down my own apartment. I have no intentions of living with somebody, especially in a one-bedroom apartment. I did with my ex-husband, and it was miserable. And furthermore, he did not identify with being queer. And so it was miserable living in a homophobic environment for me.